Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In case you're new here, I'm Kim, this is Core Union. I just wanted to tell a very quick story of a few situations that happened as I was building up my business. All of them include examples of how circumstances literally never matter when you're in trust with God and you're listening to basically inspired action once you've surrendered everything over and you are living from the end and just like keeping a very clear vision. So basically, in a nutshell, when I first started the business, and I'm not going to be including a lot of detail in this because I am very short for time, but I did want to put this out for some of you guys today. So I started the business and I didn't have anything behind me. I had no backing behind me. I literally only had $1,500 from a 401k from my awesome secure job that I basically left in order to create a retail business. How can I put it? I wanted to learn how to manifest so someday I could teach how to manifest. So that was the higher purpose of the success of my business. And I made a promise to God that if you use me as this divine expression that this is true, I will learn everything I need to learn someday when I know, when I've reached that point where I've made it successful and I can't go any further, I will let the business go and I'll become pretty much a teacher. So that was the promise that I made. And then I surrendered myself completely in complete trust that no matter what I was guided to do, I was going to listen to it. And there were a lot of times where it was like really scary, but I listened. So basically, I was in the first retail location. So mind you, this is the first time. I used to be in computers. I had no reason to be successful at all. I didn't have a degree in business. I didn't know what I was doing. Like again, I never even worked in a retail store in my life. Took the chance and I just dove right in. Everything came to me, like all of the resources that I needed came to me seamlessly, easily. Anytime I turned around and needed something, it seemed like somebody was always right there to give it to me. And that was like God working through people. And when you kind of have this complete trust, you'll see that it doesn't matter what you need. Everyone will support you. It's like the world will just be there to lift you up. I get this, my first retail location, and I had bought a loft in a very kind of up and coming area. And if you guys, some of you guys know up and coming areas sometimes are kind of rough around the edges. That was the case here. And so I bought the loft and it was a very artsy little area, but retail establishments hadn't been doing well yet. But I said, I'm gonna go all in, and I decided to open my retail business there. Now, I had met with some mentor types of people right when I did this, and they said to me, and I remember this was one of the first days that the seed was planted in my mind, they said to me that I should have opened in another city. I kind of had to like ignore that right now because right now I just started this. So long story short, I put everything I had in this. I put the $1,500, I used a couple credit cards, and I really did amazing things because again, I was getting so much support with the very little bit that I had. The first day that I opened for business, the first day, everybody turned out. It was exciting. I was being written up in different publications and things. It was like a $2,500 day and I felt like really, really good about it. Then as time passed, I noticed like my fear was rising and business was getting worse. And it got to a point where no customers were coming in at all. And it wasn't because customers didn't love the store. It's because the area could not sustain business. And this was a store that depended on foot traffic. But there aren't enough people in the area. So what I ended up getting the inspiration for was I'm going to move to not quite the city that the coach and mentor told me I should have moved to, but like a city that's kind of in between. So it's kind of on the way there. So I decided to go ahead and take the chance and look in that area at different retail spaces. The very first space that I looked at was on the main street. It was big. It just had this incredible presence about it. And I looked in the window and I thought, this is way out of my league. There's no way I can afford this. And we're just going to pretend that it was like $1,200 a month. And I was only paying $800 a month at the little retail store in the kind of up and coming area. But I said, you know what, I feel this in me, I need to get the store here. So then I found another location. I decided to move forward with it, which meant now I have to figure out, I have 2 store locations. I'm brand new, but if I had just stayed here, everything that I put into it, I would have lost it. So I'm listening to God, I'm trusting God, I'm moving forward. Long story short, I opened the store now in that new location, and about 2 months in, this just shows you how, regardless of circumstances, when you have inspired action, it's just like, it's like a fire inside of you. You listen to it. 2 months in, the landlord of that first location calls me up and says, someone looking out for you because I just got a call. A restaurant just bought the building. You are free from your lease. So I was like, thank you so much. So now I'm in this other location, and I don't know how long I was in this other location, but it was kind of a similar thing. Right now we're in the recession and business isn't enough. It's not enough. And I keep getting pulled to that retail space that I initially looked at that I thought was too big for me. Now that's what I really wanted at that time. So now there are 2 retail stores that actually are doing business out of that one retail store that I really wanted. I'm in this tiny, tiny little space, and there are 2 stores in the space I want. After some time, I walk by one day and I have this piercing feeling in my core for that other space, that I want to be in that space. So I decided I'm gonna just start to imagine it. Within a very short amount of time, the retailer that was in the back half of the store approached me and asked me if I would be interested in taking over the back space of the store. I told them I would be, and then I went out and I called a bunch of vendors that sold furniture that I was already researching and already getting excited about, and that's a key. I was literally living from the end of if I already had a large showroom, and I was lining up all the vendors, and they laughed at me and they said, well, where are you going to put it? You don't have any floor space, because I was in that tiny little space. I said, just please, just like, trust me, just let me open the account. So what I did was, during this time where this little phase thing was happening, and this was the beginning of the unfolding of this manifestation, I started getting all of the orders together as if I had $100,000 in the bank. I started getting things on my website. I started showing customers things, even though I had no idea how to even run a business like this, right? But this is what God was telling me to do. I end up pulling the trigger, and on all of the furniture that in the decor and the lamps and the mirrors and all this stuff, and I end up, and this is over some time, right? But I end up opening now a second store literally right around the corner. I don't have any employees to even run that store, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with this, and I'm just gonna trust it. So during the day, I'm at this small space, and you know, people are basically going in and out of the other store, and the other store owner is telling me, everybody's coming in looking at your stuff. Everybody loves your stuff. People keep asking. And then I said, well, just tell them to come over and see me over here. So now, what is this doing? This is sparking new desires in me to now just be 100% only in that store, because I could see that everybody loved, and he was validating that to me. Everybody was just coming in and only wanted to see my stuff. So I started imagining he asked me to take over the whole space, and that I find somebody to take over the space that I'm in. So this imaginal scene, basically I was kind of imagining a few things all at once. I was imagining seeing all of the furniture that I had in the showroom, in the window. I was imagining having the whole space. I was seeing people coming in. I was imagining myself taking orders for their furniture. But I was also separately imagining that a business, so I'm not into competition at all. For me, competition doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. For me, whoever is for me, and that's simple. And that I know that I'm always going to have, like, I know that I'm always going to have the success that I want. I know that I'm always going to have people support me. I know that I'm always going to have people love me. With the business, I knew that I was always going to have customers so, you know, obviously want to buy my stuff, because I knew that love and goodness was put into it, and people can feel that. In terms of relationships too, not to get off this, but if I'm in a relationship, for example, I am not worried about competition ever. Like, I'm not worried about it. If the person that I love was standing there and there were 10 supermodels around them, I wouldn't be worried about it. I wouldn't be insecure about it, because I know that I am wired and programmed and built to love this person. And the people, no matter whether they're more beautiful than me, they have better bodies than me, it doesn't matter, because they're not me. And for my person, for the person that is the right one, I'm the right one. It's just that simple. So I have nothing to worry about at all. But to get to that place, you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe and see that you were created perfectly by God. And that even if you have imperfections and insecurities, it doesn't matter. You're more than enough. You're more than worthy. And you are the best thing that has ever happened to the person that you love. So you don't have to worry about any competition. So anyway, and I have to wrap this up. So so competitors. So I always had people who were always constantly competing with me, but I didn't see them as competition at all. My thing was just like, they were just frustrating me because they would always send people in my store to kind of spy on my products. And then what they would do is they would copy me, and then all of a sudden they would sell my stuff in their store. But what that did to me, it didn't make me compete. All that did was like, oh, that's awesome. I was always inspired to keep bringing in even more unique things. So it ended up being this pattern that I would bring in the new things that no one else was carrying. Then they would copy me. Then they would carry it. Then that would just kind of inspire me to do that all over again. And it was kind of awesome. But anyway, so I knew that as soon as my retail store became available, she was going to grab it, because it's like she just always wanted to copy. So that's what she was doing. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to, like, with that knowledge, I'm going to see you wanting the space that will alleviate me from the lease, and I'm going to be growing. I'm going to be in this bigger space. That's what ended up happening. Basically, I moved forward. I talked to my landlord. I said, please put this up for lease, because I'm going all in this other space. This isn't working out for me. I need to grow, and I'm inspired to do this. And sure enough, the first appointment that he told me he was showing the person, it was her, the competitor, and she went ahead and she took the space over. So I was free and clear. Now she had more retail locations, but now I'm all in the big furniture showroom. And that isn't the end of that story, but there is one more thing that I want to say about this, and then I'll do more videos on how the business kept building and to the point where it brought in millions of dollars. I'm not sure at what year it was, but basically I was in business for 15 to 16 years. This experiment worked. It proved that manifesting is real. It proved that really God, when you just trust in God and trust in your heart, God's going to carry you through and do everything for you. So basically, the last thing I want to tell with this story, because it's a big deal. I'm in the store now, and I wanted to have this big image of a big store, like a Crate and Barrel, Restoration Hardware, West Elm, Pottery Barn. So I just kept imagining that, like, it has this big image that people love it. People don't even realize that I'm a small business. And that's what people were actually mirroring to me while I was doing this work. They would literally come in and say, are you a chain? Is this, and so it was like, I always projected out this big image. I was approached a few weeks after I started imagining this. I was approached by a company that asked me if I would let them come into the business, take a bunch of pictures, and create signage, like the kind of signage that you see in big box stores. Like, so I would have a bedding area, a living room area, like all of this awesome marketing. It was $10,000 worth of signage. And they said, if you let us do this for you and take pictures so in other words, we want to use you for this. We'll give you all the stuff for free. You just let us do a photo shoot one afternoon so we can put all of the stuff in our catalog. So I said, of course, thank you. I'm so grateful for this. Thank you so much. And of course I was thanking God, because I knew this was God. Then somebody came in, he was a customer of mine, and he did all of the kind of like the artwork and stuff that would go into the signage along with the photography. So anyway, this was just an example, perfect example, right? Like a few examples of how, and this is just a few stories, but circumstances didn't matter. I continued to live in the end. I continued to trust God, and I continued to not question and take inspired action. And everything always fell into place, and all of the resources I ever needed were literally just given to me, okay? So I love you guys so much. Comment down below, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Nothing can come between us.